Now, as Newcastle United eye the new Premier League season and their return back to the Champions League. Now, in terms of transfers, it's been very quiet so far, but as soon as July sort of kicks in, these transfers start to hot up, and there are sort of multiple rumours, multiple more moves. And Newcastle United are probably going to be a club that are going to slightly make a few adjustments. I mean, if you have to compare their sort of last Champions League campaign and where they fell short, the squad depth, yes, they were very unlucky in multiple occasions against some bigger sides in Europe, but their squad depth certainly hurt them with the key injuries as well, and then fitness issues throughout the season ultimately meant they fell short in their race to return. Now they are back in the Champions League. They obviously have also returned a major trophy as well in the League Cup. This is a new sort of era, a new start again for Newcastle United. Who knows where they can go this season? They want to make sure they are continuing to push on. And in terms of the transfer activity, we'll go with our North East correspondent Dan Wales. Dan, just talk to us a bit about where Newcastle are, how they are feeling ahead of the new summer, how the new season, how they are activating this summer in terms of where they might need to improve on, and the sort of picky parts that they have to get right, because they want to make sure they are comfortable with squad depth. They want to make sure they are having a fairly good season domestically and in Europe as well. So where are they ahead of this new campaign?
Well, Charles, the first thing to report is that Newcastle would seemingly have missed out on one of their targets for this summer in Pedro of Brighton and Hove Albion, the young Brazilian attacking player, seemingly now heading to Stamford Bridge with a deal being agreed with the London club, according to various reports. So Newcastle missing out on that target. Newcastle had bid for Pedro in excess of £50 million. Chelsea then did the same, with the Brazilian ultimately preferring a move to the capital. Unfortunately, Newcastle can't really do a lot about that. Chelsea probably were able to offer more wages as well, which could have been a determining factor. But Newcastle remain in the market for several other players, first of which is James Trafford, the Burnley goalkeeper. That deal is seemingly nearly completed for a fee in the region of £30 million. Personal terms have been agreed between the player and Newcastle United for some time now, but it's just been a case of agreeing a deal between the two clubs for a transfer fee. Newcastle also still in the market for a right winger, because of course Pedro could have potentially filled that gap. He's very versatile, but now that he's gone, they're still looking at Anthony Elanga of Nottingham Forest. They did have a bid rejected for Anthony Elanga of Forest in the region of about £45 million, but they do remain at the table with negotiations ongoing. It's just whether Newcastle also have any other targets in that area that perhaps haven't hit the media. There are some, of course, on the continent that they've looked at as well, such as Adeyemi, but also you look at Mohamed Kudus at West Ham, also being mentioned too. But I think Elanga is a number one right-wing target for the time being. Then, of course, that leaves a bit of a hole at centre-half. I think if Newcastle were to get Elanga, they'd have filled that right-wing slot. They need to give some support to Jacob Murphy. Certainly with James Trafford coming in, you'd be looking to have competition with Nick Pope in goal, and plus Trafford's age would see him probably become Newcastle's keeper for the long term in the future. But then you still need a centre-half, because if Sven Botman is fully fit for the upcoming Premier League season, then Newcastle will want someone to pair alongside him. Of course, Botman was injured for large parts last season, with Fabian Schär and Dan Burn coming in to do a great job for Newcastle. But Newcastle do want to secure their backline for the years to come. Sven Botman isn't yet too old. They'll want someone of similar ilk to him to come on and be part of the squad as well. So that still remains to be seen who they target in that regard, because of course no real names have hit the media yet. The only real name is of course Mark Gee of Crystal Palace, who they bid for last summer but were unsuccessful in their pursuit of. They bid up to about £65 million, but Palace weren't budging, and now his name has been banished about again, but Liverpool are also interested in him, so it remains to be seen whether that will come to fruition. Certainly though, Newcastle still looking for a centre-half, potentially another backup striker or someone versatile in the front line, as well as Anthony Elanga of Nottingham Forest to cover the right wing.